So I'm in the process of cleaning up here. Let's just take a look-see. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm getting ready to start a month-long artist residency at my local arts council, and today's the first day, so I'm like cleaning up this space at like early in the morning, and yeah, but what I was thinking about while I was cleaning up, well, I'm always thinking about something. I'm like, where do you think abstraction is really coming from? When we kind of disengage the body in one way, not disassociate, that's like something different though. You're still like present of your beingness, but then you can kind of like bilocate within yourself. Right, so you're able to siphon the unconscious more. And to me, abstraction is coming out of nothing, right? Of course, a lot of times people still work off of an image to then abstract that, or maybe make this linear grid-like structure that is what it's often like the predetermined set of rules of how we look at composition. But what about just abstracting, you know, the form and breaking it down and like intuiting the information? It's a really sensory thing, a feeling thing. I often say, like, if you ever, like, did ecstatic dance or got in, like, a trance-like state in any kind of way, there's many ways to access that state. And I feel like for me, art making does do that, but I'm really open to that understanding, the automatic, the intuitive, the siphoning the unconscious, letting anything come through me, which can be like a scary thing, right? Because if you haven't really engaged that energy and emotion, sometimes the fear will rise in the process. And also, not only is there that aspect, there's the other fears of, can I just let this out? What is someone gonna say? All the stuff. You know, all that's rising at sometimes when we go into this moment. Challenging, right? Because you just want to do the one thing and fly into that flow. I know. I do too. And that's kind of what I'm always interested in conjuring, but you know, some days are easier than others. It's just like living. But this is where an automatic and non-representational drawing practice comes into hand, because you can be in the practice every day, even if it's a little, like I just made this video and I'll put it up there. It's about learning to see, right? Especially in an abstract way. But it's more about the feeling, right? Ooh, that sensory output and how it all connects. But that can take time because, like I said, those fears of what it means to let it out. And then the fear of all the judgments or what maybe someone told you and you're like, it's trapped in your mind. So the ultimate goal, at least this is my point of view, is to free ourselves through the process of art and creativity and even living, right? To live into that fullest expression, to be here now in the mess and then clean. Sometimes we have to clean it up, but sometimes we have to lie around in it for a little bit in order to know what we're doing. So it all has value, But we don't often hear the other side of the conversation, and this is like actually why I'm making this channel, and it's also why I'm making a face program, which the pre-sale is still available until my birthday, December 9th. It's $400, which is $50 a week, because it's an 8-week program that starts in January 3rd, 2025. And it's a hybrid program that's combining art and energetics, and it's highly process driven, because how do you stay in the process is the question, and how do you plan for the long game? Because if things aren't always going the way we expect, or that explosion comes in, can you still create in those moments? And how do you anchor the energy and open up to more emotionality and dive into intuition, into that feeling, you know, into the heart of the matter? Because it's really when we're in our body, moving forward in creativity, art, you know, daring to do that next thing that maybe you're afraid of, make that YouTube channel, write that thing, sing that song, I don't know, what is it? I'm sure everybody has a thing that they're afraid to do. Maybe fly somewhere, travel. Who knows? It's all there. But when you're hiding out, right? Here it is. And I know this 1,000% by now, because life has sure shown me things in many kinds of ways. You know, you're just gonna fill yourself more with that anxiety in that closet of darkness, and all those fears, and the things you didn't say, and the things you ran away from. And if you're running away from your creativity and art like I did for decades, and of course myself too, because my traumas, you know, I'm not gonna lie, facing our traumas, very hard, and you know, can take time, and some of that stuff will never go away. It just won't. We can learn to like manage it and mitigate stuff, and work with how we are functioning and how we see the world. And you know, there's different ways. I'm not saying art making is the only solution, but it is a solution, and I think it's a very powerful one that often gets overlooked by a regular person, because we often fear that we're not creative, and we fear I can't draw a straight line. Well, it's great. In my world, you don't need to. I actually encourage you to draw something more that's emotional, more in that feeling state, in that mark making, motion and movement, right? Because finding that expression is also, I think, a lifetime process. Because, you know, there are the fears even I have to work through, and I have to work through them now. They don't really go away, they kind of change. And actually, it's better to be a beginner, because you don't really know that much. But you probably have more fear. So it's hard to see that, though, when you're just in the beginning. It's but it actually gets harder, because when you learn to see a lot, you can understand that things fall short all the time in art making. Even you look at famous paintings and you can see the mistakes. So actually, sometimes having more technical knowledge kind of ruins the experience a lot. Because you can see the thinking, or you can see that there's so many things that look the same. And that's kind of like becomes a weird, but then you realize something in that. Once you can like see all that, you realize, oh, everyone's in this game and can create what they really want to create, and maybe just staying the course in your own creation is the highest thing you can do for yourself, because it's not really the same in the end. Which is like a challenge to do that. It's a challenge to stay in it when, like, you just want to do the expression right. But we're often looking for that acceptance piece in the external. But like, the reason why I created Face, and I'll just talk about it one more time real quick, because I'm excited about that understanding, is, well, it's all about the internal over here. And when we get closer to the internal, which I've been kind of squirreling away for the past 2 decades between energy work and shamanism and healing these deep-seated things, and then like discovering who I am as an artist, to which I'm still on that journey. So it's always gonna change. But the thing is, working through all the fears and just coming out of myself is really what has been the biggest gift, and that's kind of priceless, right, when we think about it in those kinds of terms. But not many people talk about the internal rewards, because our society is just usually focused on external achievements. It's like a linear thing that often is just like, are you making the money from it? And that's like usually the first questions. Yeah, but I am. But like, no one like ever looks at it as like, what is art making and creativity and the creative process done for my psychological makeup and my spiritual beingness and my happiness at times. You know, of course I still like a sad moment and a darker expression, because I won't turn anything away, but it's not, but I feel like that's more holistic too, to like kind of access all the sides. And then what I noticed in my practice, when I was like hiding a few, they're like lodged in me, let's just say, I don't know what to do. And I couldn't really find a way, but I noticed like once I started really turning to it, and I mean really turning to it, yeah, which was like scary but exciting, right on that edge. Anyway, things have changed a lot, and then I realized a lot of things rapidly in that moment. But you know, it took over those years of working to have the realization, and that's what awareness is these openings that happen slowly over time, but one day that big crackle light comes in, and you see it all for yourself. And that's like, no one can really tell you that, because you're the one walking that path, making these drawings and paintings and working towards that unknown that eventually becomes known, but then it becomes unknown again. It's a paradox. And this is why we like learn to dance. You know, because it's not always gonna be easy. It's just not any of it, really. Living. Growth is sometimes painful, you know, growing pains. Sometimes that loss of identity can really just dismantle our interior structure. And we, you know, it's a groundlessness. And then if you're like trying to do something in that period, it maybe doesn't always work out so well. But the thing is that what I am really an advocate for is to keep moving forward and to not get stuck, right? Because for decades I was locked up in many ways, and then for decades I've been like freeing myself. So I know what it's like to be on both sides. I definitely know what it's like to hide. And be afraid of, well, my energy is sometimes too much for people. It just is. And or they like it until they don't. What else? You know, I'm very emotional. I like to talk about the deep shit. And I like, just, that's kind of my makeup, right? And so finding the more I just be true to those expressions and the right things show up for me, and there is acceptance. But, you know, I really had to work on the acceptance of myself. And, like, overcoming those fears and those hard trials and tribulations, sometimes even the betrayals, right? All this stuff is like mixed together, and it's not perfect. It's a practice. I'll always say that. All of it, right? And that is true. But, on the other hand, we can always reconcile and make amends. You can't always force the situation out there in the external, but what you can do is work on the internal. And actually, that's probably the best part, because that's what's going to build your strength and your resilience and your inner resolve, and you're going to be able to stand here now and say what it is for you, and not turn away. Face it, right? So a program face is all built upon my lived experiences, and it can still be a struggle actually in this time as I move forward, with this new direction and this new creation, and the visionary aspect within my beingness wants to speak now, because I feel like it's time. So there is something also about noticing, the fears versus the desires, versus if you're hiding or if you just really don't care and don't want to do it. But what I've noticed between like me and like hearing people over the years and watching things is that most often people are afraid to get out there, because of whatever of the traumas or whatever you have to hide, right? And not everything is, I guess, designed to be supportive of that, or even talk about that understanding that we may be faced with in the challenge, right? Because like you're kind of taught to like put on a good face, which is just essentially putting on your mask, right? Like, so how many masks are you wearing out there? And it's time to take them off, right? Face that inner heart and that inner awareness. I know it's not gonna be easy, especially depending on how much you have to move through. Art making and creative process and energy work and healing on these levels is one way to do it, but there's many ways to do it, so find what works for you, find what's in resonance, because we're not all, I guess, interested in the same thing, but that doesn't mean that one is better or worse. It just means it's different, and differences are very important in art and very important in living, because it colors the world, and that's what you want to say, and so it's not, you're actually better off when it doesn't look the same, because it's kind of boring when it's all the same. Who wants that? I mean, I don't. My one rule in art making is I don't want to feel bored. I don't want to feel bored as the viewer, and I don't want to feel bored in my process. So, learning to change it up and get expressive and experimental and open up more internal doors really helps you stay, like, present, because then you can use any emotion, kind of investigate that moment, and you're good, because life is emotional, and when you stop hiding, you definitely feel more. A lot of times we're running away from the feeling, of it all, because it's a lot, especially if we're living in this world today, right? Everything's kind of popping off, but we're in this big period of transformation, energetically speaking, and art making is a great way to ground the experience of what you're going through, big changes and shifts, and it's available to everyone. What I love about it is there is a simplicity. You don't need much. You could throw out the idea of what all the materials are and just get a piece of paper and a pen, and you can make something, or you can write something. Come on now, that's like so powerful, and we take it for granted. So I'm an advocate for the simplicity, ironically, if you can believe me, simplicity. But that doesn't mean I don't love a good maximal moment, explosion, and probably my minimal is still maximal. But you know what I'm saying is the tools are just so easily available. And sometimes we need just a guide to move us through to that next phase, right? That's all teachers are really doing, is helping you open your door a little bit wider, and you know, so you can go out there and then do your thing, right? So you can feel fully present and anchored and resilient, and you can say what you want to say, and find that, you know, strength. So a teacher can hold you in that space and hold you, right? The internal space. Somebody can hold you like that energetically because they can see you. It's all about seeing the real you. And when you've been through a lot, you can see a lot. And I'm not really giving myself a pat on the back, I'm just saying it's true. But it's not for the faint of heart. Looking at all those sides going into these caves that we fear to enter. That's why I'm here right now, for you, to remind you that we can always face it again and again and again and again and again. Because there's infinite possibilities of creativity, and creation is always speaking to us, through us, for us. And that's cool.